Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to Living Astrology with host Janet Hickok, intuitive astrologer and human design consultant, and her co-host Jason Levanis, intuitive tarot card reader and teacher, as well as feng shui consultant. At Living Astrology Radio, we are committed to empowering people to reach for the stars. Now enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today on Living Astrology, where we are going to be talking about the astrology for the Winter Solstice, which is, geez Louise, less than a week away. Sitting with me today on the other coast of this wonderful United States is Jason Levanis. Hello, Jason. How are you?
Woohoo! You want to tell you how I am? I'll tell you how the hell I am. I went out with a friend today, and I don't drink and I don't smoke, even though back in the day I was a huge pothead, but I went out with a buddy of mine, and I had a little Christmas cheer. I had a glass of red wine. So you're getting a slightly drunk Jason today. I will do my best to make sure that I don't offend too many people. So how I am, I'm feeling love. I'm feeling love. I'm feeling fantastic, and I'm feeling slightly drunk. So that being said, I am excited about your show. And let me tell you one of the reasons why. When I was coming through the ranks, there was this Windham Hill record label, and it was called Windham Hill, and they had this wonderful record by George Winston called December, and there was another one called Winter Solstice, and it was the most beautiful, dreamy music. I can recommend that to any of your listeners. Fantastic stuff. So I love the word winter solstice because, as you know, I am a winter baby, and there's something sexy and romantic and, I don't know, big, bulky sweaters, and, you know, everybody gets to hibernate and cuddle. It's just a sexy, wonderful time, Janet. So I'm awesome, and I'm excited about your show.
Thank you. I hope you're still excited after we talk about what's going on for this particular Winter Solstice.
Well, let me tell you. You told me to pick the cards in it, and the first card that I picked was so cocky duty. I thought, oh shit, here we go. I wonder what she's going to say. And for all the listeners out there, very often we're running very busy lives. Janet is doing readings like nonstop. I'm doing readings nonstop, and we don't get the chance to really come together sometimes. And so I'll get a quick email or a text, hey, pull 3 cards for this, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. And we don't get to talk about it. And if any of you that are listening to our human design videos for Janet's page, you'll know very much sometimes we're off the cuff. You know what? Before we even go into it, let's get all the plugging out of the way. Janet, for people who want living design free charts, for people who want astrological natal charts and or, I forgot what the fuck you're doing again. You're doing another free chart. What's it called? No. Human
design and Jupiter in Libra.
Jupiter in Libra. That's right. Tell me and tell all of the kind people out there where they can get a hold of you, please.
You can always find me at Living Astrology's website, which is www.living-astrology.com. Right on the top of that page is a request for a Jupiter in Libra chart or a request for a human design chart. And probably in the next, I'm not sure if I'm going to do this, but I might add a request for a Mercury retrograde chart. Just depends on how much I really feel like dealing with Mercury retrograde because it is messing me up already, and it's not retrograde yet.
Yeah. So when you say a Mercury retrograde chart, what do you mean? You mean, in other words, where's Mercury in any person's chart, and when it goes into retrograde, how it's going to screw us up? I mean, is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, lovely.
So I do just a quick little look at the chart and say, okay, look, you're going to be screwed because it's going through your house of communication, and better watch what you say. Don't sign contracts if you don't need to. Whatever it is that happens to be standing out in the crowd at the moment. I really thought I was going to escape Mercury retrograde because it's in Capricorn, which is not really particularly populated in my chart. However, today I was having my little go-rounds with my computer. I almost thought I'm not going to be able to do the show today because I couldn't even get the episode up this morning. You know, trying to get the Blog Talk Radio to cooperate, or my computer to cooperate with Blog Talk was not working. So,
you know, it's something. It's a problem. When you can't get it up, I really get nervous.
Oh, my God. Jason, honey?
You'll be hysterical later. So listen to me. I have about 100 people in the queue waiting for you. So I'm going to let you talk to me about the winter solstice while I go in the background, all right?
Thank you.
All
so
right.
I just want to make a quick little observation announcement for everybody. When I post the radio shows, I post them on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and, you know, the whole mega social media rounds. And when I do that, I make sure I let everybody know, if you want a reading from me during the show, email me with your birth details by 3 p.m. of that same day of the show, 3 p.m. Pacific time. And the reason I do that is because it gets a little crazy in the background for Jason and for me to try to take down people's birth information, put up a chart, and talk to you about your chart without knowing ahead of time that you're calling in. I don't want to discourage anybody from doing that, just in case we don't have a lot of people calling in, but I always do give preferential treatment, if you will, to the people who've emailed me their birth charts, because I feel like they followed the rules and they did that. So I'm just making that announcement for people who might, you know, feel like they've called in and they're waiting for readings, but I don't get to them, and that's because there have been many other people ahead of time. And when I have a day like today where I have a lot of information for you, the number of readings I do might be cut down a bit. So let's get started. So whenever we have a solstice or an equinox, it is an excellent time for us, just like if it were your birthday, it is an excellent time for us to be able to get a chart together for the time of the equinox or the time of the solstice, and then we can see from that what the likely themes are that are going to develop over the course of the next 3 months if it's a solstice or an equinox chart. And it also gives us an opportunity to look at some of the more chaotic transits that are going to be coming up. It gives us an opportunity to see where the likely challenges are going to be. And let me tell you, I did not get the inspiration to do this show until yesterday. And I am so glad that it came in the way it did, and I'm so glad that I'm doing this, because the winter, as I thought was going to be us easing into a new year, turns out to be really full of a whole lot of stuff, turmoil, challenges, and transformational energies, etc. So astrologically, first of all, the winter solstice is defined as the day the sun moves into Capricorn. And astronomically, though, the winter solstice occurs at the time the sun for the northern hemisphere has traveled the furthest south that we would see it, and that lands at about the Tropic of Capricorn, thus the name, the Tropic of Capricorn. So that gives the people in the northern hemisphere the shortest days and the longest nights, and gives our friends down under the longest days and the shortest nights. So we have this, polarized or this flipped sort of way of experiencing the solstices and the equinoxes. So winter for us begins on December 21st this year, and it runs all the way until March 19th, because spring actually begins on March 20th. So we are going to take a look at this 3-month period of time. Now, I would love to just say I could just jump right into December 21st and go on from there, but we have to start with a bit of the backstory, because since we don't live in just a snapshot world, so that we can, look at January and go, oh, this is, where we start in January, we have to sort of look at the energies that led us up to that. So in the last couple of weeks, Jason and I have worked through some of the major things that are happening. For example, Jupiter opposing Uranus. We had a show where we talked about Mars conjuncting Pluto, and that happened back in October. And we've talked about some of these other revolutionary energies of planets been shaping our lives since at least the beginning of October, and they are not leaving us yet, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on how exciting you like your life. As Jupiter's opposition to Uranus, which occurs December 26th, is right smack in the dab of this whole idea of the change of the seasons. And Mercury's retrograde begins before we ever even walk into the winter solstice. So we have two, sort of big things going on in the background that are kind of creating this energy revolution. That's the word I like to use for it because it feels so revolutionary. But it's also creating space for us to become more authentic and true to ourselves. And in that is the word integrity. And so we're going to talk a bit about that today when we look at people's charts, about where that you might find yourself being out of integrity right now, or where you might need to work a little harder to bring yourself back into integrity. And by the way, integrity in my vocabulary does not mean that it's a moralistic viewpoint or based on, the outer world. To me, integrity is what is true for you, what is you being true to yourself, being authentic, being your own authority, that kind of thing. So don't let the word integrity scare you, because a lot of people go, oh no, I have to stick with a code, a moral code, and that's certainly not my interpretation of it whatsoever. So when we're talking about the astrological themes that are going to develop, we're going to look really quickly now at the big picture for December 21st through the month of January. And I had Jason pull a card for me for this month, for this period of time, so I'm going to have him come on in a moment and tell us what he got. But okay, what I get for the month of this first month of winter is this energy that's very strongly characterized by a revolution and by challenges. And as I looked at the winter solstice chart, what I see with my astrologer's eyes is that a lot of the planets, in fact, most of them, are lined up in the houses from 1 to 6. And those are what we call the more personal houses of the astrology chart. So it sees all of us sort of having to be focused on ourselves. Now, that doesn't mean we don't pay attention to others in our lives and we don't participate in, the outer world. But I think the first 6 months here, or the first month of this winter solstice is really going to be about us getting square with ourselves. We're being challenged to bring ourselves into alignment with why we're here, what we're here to do, what is true and authentic for ourselves. And another interesting word I could throw in here is freedom, in that what is it that what is it going to take for us to claim our birthright? And our birthright is freedom, the freedom to move through our lives in a direction that's right for us. Jason, share your card.
I have to tell you, please, I hope that your listeners understand that we really do not collude ahead of time. Everybody out there that thinks this is made up, or this is some kind of a staged scenario, you must know it is not. So I think everybody heard me sort of guffaw when you asked me to pull some cards. The first month of December, God, I wish I had, like rainbows and unicorns for you, but I don't. The 9.
Okay.
If anybody looks at,
what is it?
Okay, if anybody looks at the Cosmic Tribe Tarot, and they look at the 9 of Swords, there are swords coming from above, swords coming from below, and literally there is this beautiful dove, white dove, and this bird being held in place by hands, being pierced by these knives, by these swords. And I am going to just review the textbook reading for December. Should the 9 of Swords crush your reading, it's time to save yourself. Are you overly critical? Are you heavily critical of others? If so, the life-denying monsters in your head have they been planted by your parents, your teachers, or cruelly competitive culture? You can spend a lifetime in miserable servitude to nastiness, or you can take the swords from their hands and kill the monster yourself. No matter their source, you are now both the big bad monster and the innocent girl. And both are catching you up in the same tired old drama where the spirit is crushed. If you face your fears and start killing the monsters now, you can begin to break this cycle and move forward with your life. I mean, really? Come on.
Wow, that gives me tingles because that's
I got goosebumps when I don't know, whatever. I mean, wow.
I know.
I sound like
a
California. Yeah.
The coherence, right? The coherence of the message.
Yep.
Now, here's one thing I want to add to that message because it sounds very, a little bit challenging. Let's just say I'm going to always whitewash it. It sounds challenging. It is challenging. But here's something that's really awesome for us to understand about the energies from this December 21st to January 21st. And that is beginning on January 3rd, we see a stellium of planets gathering in the sign of Pisces. Stellium means this. There are more than 4 planets in that sign. And in fact, what we'll have is Chiron, Mars, Neptune, the Moon, the South Node, and Venus, all in Pisces. So this draws from us the unconsciousness that we might have around giving ourselves self-love, around being compassionate to ourselves. And it really asks us to rise to that level of being able to give to ourselves in the same measure that we would give to others. Have you ever found yourself, Jason, talking to yourself in the mirror or just saying, bad, crappy things about yourself to yourself?
In the mirror, honey, when I'm people think, it's like I have a Bluetooth in my ear that's not really there. So, yeah, I talk to myself a lot to keep my shit together. Like, okay, all right, Jason, it's just Mercury retrograde. There's no need to go out and buy a flamethrower. You're gonna be all right.
What I kind of meant though is like, calling yourself names. Like, that was the stupidest thing you could have done, Janet. Or you're such an idiot. Or you and that things yourself aren't so supportive with these are toward ourselves the same kindness that we would extend to others, because I would never go up to another person and start telling them how idiotic they are.
Hey, Janet, the last tense on my end was completely bleeped in and out. Now, I don't know whether your listeners heard that, but can you, just for shits and giggles, can you repeat what you just said real quick?
Okay, I'm not sure where I was at, but it's the thing that said there are times when we talk to ourselves in a way that is not the way we would ever speak to anybody else. So we can browbeat ourselves and hurt ourselves by calling ourselves kind of names. And where it's saying, okay, bring it some generosity of spirit, love, and compassion inward yourself, because you're not going to be able to see love and compassion outward in the world unless you can see it and reflect it from within you. And so that's really pretty much the balance to some of this more challenging energy is don't beat yourself up. Transformation and revolution, that takes time, and it takes patience, and it takes actual actions on your part. But it doesn't help it when you are beating yourself up, right? If you're throwing yourself words and phrases that are not supported.
It's exactly what this Nine of Swords card is saying. You've got to get a hold of those monsters and just be kind to yourself as much as possible.
Exactly. So most of the month of January, then, is really going to be about the fallout from that Jupiter-Uranus opposition that happens right after the solstice. Already lined up in that way, so we're already feeling the effects of this revolutionary impulse. I think it's a call for us to evolve, to move past the things that have separated us, to move past the energy of separation. And that's very hard for us to do because we see an outer world that seems very polarized and very much an us versus them. You can just look at our election here in this, what that effect is in outer. In order to for ourselves. And that's a big theme for the winter as we move into now, the second major month from January 21st, let's say, through the end of February. February is always a short month, so I'm just going to go through the whole month of February. February is, I'm trying to think of a really nice word. February is the month of love because it's a month that has Valentine's Day in it, but it never really makes people feel very good. So I think this is a month that I could categorize as transformational, but not easy by any stretch of the imagination. For the first time in a lot of years, we actually have 2 eclipses during the month of February. We have a full moon lunar eclipse on February 11th, which is in Leo. And for all of you born around my year, 1961, what you're looking at is this eclipse on top of your natal Uranus. So every one of us in that time period, 1961-ish, are under the gun with that particular eclipse in terms of what it is making us do for transformational energies. For what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And it is an energy that can have some surprising impacts. Now, another thing that I want people to understand is that there's also something kind of interesting going on here in that right between the first eclipse on February 11th and the second eclipse, which is a new moon solar eclipse in Pisces, where we heard Pisces already for this 3-month period of time, that new moon eclipse occurs on the 26th at 8 degrees Pisces. But we have a Mars square Pluto in between the two. And I want to take you back in time to October 19th, because that was the time in October when you and I, Jason, were talking about Mars conjuncting Pluto and about the energy that it would have bursted forth. It could have been dangerous energy, but huge energy of change, catalyzing, in other words, a Plutoan transformation or a possible soul searching. What is that called? The dark night of the soul kind of energies.
Yeah.
And now these 2 planets are coming into a square formation with one another. So the potential for the conjunction now meets its first challenge, and that will be on February 21st, like 21st into the 22nd. So I'm just going to use my own life as a model for this right now, because I can tell you, like to the day, something that happened to my life on the Mars conjunct Pluto, and that was I rent this beautiful house on the beach here in Samish Island, and my landlord told me that day that she wanted her daughter to move into the house this summer and that we were going to have to move. And it was like somebody taking the magic carpet out from under my feet and me falling flat on my face for the effect that Mars-Pluto conjunction had on me. Now, with time, I've come from that initial shock and terribleness to realize that maybe it's time for me to do something different, and that would be, to purchase a home. Now, the first challenge to that new direction for me is coming up here in February, and I'm really interested to see how that challenge is going to appear. And in knowing that that's coming, then I can prepare myself, right? I can prepare to be okay with however it shows up, because I have a feeling that the universe is being kind and is being doing things to my benefit. I have to believe that. And so it'll be interesting to see how that shows up, and I guarantee that some of the people that we're going to talk to today have had some interesting experiences in this time period. And those eclipses that are like bookending this Mars squaring Pluto are the game changers. I don't know how many years I've been doing this radio show, since 2013, so that's almost 4 years this February. And
yay!
Every set of eclipses, I'm doing the same thing, talking about the same thing. These things are game changers, because whatever direction you think you may be going in, a monkey wrench can be thrown at you with the eclipses, because the eclipses kind of close doors and open new windows. It's like, you can't go backwards anymore to an old way of being. You have to move straight forward into the road that has opened up in front of you. Now, as human beings, we like to hold on, right? We like to hold on and stay stuck in what's comfortable. But we're not going to be able to do that as time goes on here. We will not be able to do that in February with 2 eclipses and a Mars squaring Pluto. And on top of that, right after the second eclipse, we have Mars in opposition to Uranus, in opposition then also to Jupiter, which tells me that the revolutionary energy is really taking hold here. There's no way we can go back, right? We either evolve or die.
Wow.
And I don't mean die necessarily literally, but I am meaning that the door's closed behind you. You have to move forward. We have to create consciously from now on, and that comes very clear in the month of February. So now I'm interested in hearing the card that you picked for that time period.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here. Sometimes I feel the image is like, for me, when it comes to you, like I am this kid in the water, and you are driving this huge, massive yacht, and you go by me, and I'm just sort of left in the wake of your yacht. I know that sounds poetic, but literally, folks, you can't write this shit. I'm sitting here listening to you going, God. All right, so the card that I picked for this, as I like to coin it, fucked up February, is the 4 card. Yeah, that's going to be our new slogan. And welcome to Fucked Up February. I'm your host. Is the 4 card, which is going to be the card of my show next week, the Emperor. Now, I love this card. Yeah, I love this card because he is a little bit of a hard card. What do I mean? What do I mean by that? I mean that if you look at the card, Janet, he sits on a square. He sits on a box. He is the number 4, like this square you were discussing. He has his head turned to the right, which is the male principle. He is talking to the goat, who is the wise sort of sage. He's holding the scepter and the orb. This is the card that tells everybody that it is important that they be smart about a very difficult decision-making process. It is the card that says, keep yourself dynamic and open through the difficult process of decision-making. And why is this? Well, you have the sun from above, you have the moon from below, the eye of God happening, and he's sitting there, and he is listening over his shoulder to the wise sage. One could interpret it and say, talk to your male influences, your fathers, your grandfathers. The fact of the matter is we need to look backwards, see what kind of bullshit devastation we've created. We need to take a note from these pages, and we need to go forward being shrewd. We need to be dynamic and realize that we can't go back, like you said. We need to go forward and make this decision process happen, and it needs to be relevant to what's happening going forward. But we can't just make these decisions willy-nilly. We need to make sure that we're doing it conscious.
I love it.
It can't be just, fuck it, I'll do this. People, if you do that, if you go off the cuff, if you, as Janet will tell me time and time again, as a generator, if you are reactive, you're going to screw yourself with no kissing, no loving, no nothing. People, take your time, make your decisions wisely. The Emperor is not fooling around. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love it, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that next Wednesday on your show at 4 p.m. Pacific, right? Titillating Tarot with Jason Levanis. But guess what, Jason? Something else occurred to me while you were speaking about this, and that I wrote something on the chart, and I'm like, why did I write that? And I wrote, co-worker in the great plan. And I got that from the book Initiation, which you pushed me to read, and I'm fascinated by anyway. And so I want all of you out there to understand that we are all co-workers in the divine plan, or in the great plan, if you will. And so what is really being modeled to us right now is the need for us to get on the ball with the plan that we have, with the plan, playing our part, our role in what this great divine plan is. And if you don't know what your role is, then you need to reach out. You need to find people like me, like Jason, or any other astrologer or counselor type person, and help you get on what your plan is, because we need everybody right now to be consciously creating and not unconsciously creating, because look
more
at the shambles.
More than ever.
Shambles, right? Right. So get on the ball with the co-working, co-creating the great plan. And remember, earlier in this season, at the beginning of the autumn, we were talking about the fact Jupiter had moved into Libra, which was about what? Collaboration, co-creation,
yes.
Cooperation.
Relationships.
So,
yeah.
In relationships, building the relationships that can work together to build something greater than what we have now. So everybody keep to that, and then you end up sort of modifying the need to have to go through some of the more negative aspects of transformation and revolution. Although there's not much I can say about what we're going to see, because as we move into March, the energy beats up a little bit, because Mars moves into Aries, a sign that Uranus is sitting in right now, the Great Awakener, and this is Mars territory. Mars is very comfortable in Aries. This is his throne, if you will. And so
all right,
Mars
so Janet, let me interrupt you for just a moment. For all the people who've just tuned in, we are talking about the winter solstice. We've just gone through December. We've just gone through February. No, excuse me. December. We've just gone through January, and now we're going into...
We did December 21st through the end of January, and we've done February. And now we're heading into the March period of time. There's that overlap before we get into spring. Let me just skip spring and go into summer. And that begins to, shift a bit of our energy. Typically, March is the time that we've had the eclipses going on. So March is usually that, hallelujah, what is that, Hail Mary pass that the quarterback makes that takes us to the end run. But February is going to play that role. As I'm sitting here in my...
I wish I had a clue as to what the hell you just said.
A Hail Mary pass, where you have nothing left to lose, so you just throw the pass and hope that someone downfield catches it and makes a touchdown.
Well, there you go. Now I'm educated.
There you go. So when we get into March, we have a couple of really interesting things that happen. Number one, the Sun conjuncts Neptune. Talk about confusion, right? Talk about taking the light and making it diffuse. So March can be a very tricky month as we start, because March 2nd is when the Sun is conjuncting Neptune. And don't worry about that, right? If you're not getting clear signals as to the outer world and what to do, go to Source. Ask Source, what is my next step? Venus is going to retrograde in the month of March, from March 6th until April 15th. Now, we haven't had a Venus retrograde in a while, so we forget, what does Venus retrograde mean? Well, this is about lessons in evaluating our real worth and the things that we value, the value of people, the value of things, our beliefs. All those type of things then become something under scrutiny during the time that Venus is retrograde. So we get a little kind of an internal push as we get into March. And I think maybe it buys us a little bit of time to kind of self-search and see what direction we move in next. For those of you out there considering any kind of cosmetic surgery or elective surgeries, try not to do it between March 6th and April 15th. It's not a good time, especially with Venus retrograde. Yeah, that's just one little aside, and we'll talk about that again. But March gives us a bit of a break, but it's not a big break, because we still have that Jupiter. That's when the next Jupiter-Uranus exact opposition, the energy of revolution, pulses through again. But I think this time, instead of the outer world having to do the shift, it'll be our inner world having to shift. And I think that the whole of 2017 is going to be characterized like that. Outer shifts, inner shifts. Outer and inner shifts. It's a very generator type of year, I think, that we're heading into, as would be fit a year that is a 10 numerologically or a 1, new beginnings, right? So, okay, Jason, what was the third card you pulled? I almost hesitate to ask.
No, it is hysterical. I'm just sitting here going, after the show is done, I'm going to totally call you, and my mind is kind of blown. Okay, so the last card of this 3-card pull is the Princess of Swords. Now, if you look at it, it's interesting because I'll tell you something. The actual book or divinatory meaning and what I came to sort of come to as a tarot card reader is interesting. So I'm going to give you the Jason version real quick, and then I'll give you the divinatory meaning. If you look at it, she's this gorgeous angel, and she has beautiful body, breasts flowing, and she's this angel. But there is the sword above her, and it has wings. It has the eye of God, but behind it are flames. And a lot of times, what I tell people is, don't burn your bridges by talking and acting on impulse first. Stop coming from externals. Now, that's the Jason Levanis titillating tarot version. The actual divinatory meaning of this card is the meditator. Interesting. So you were talking about, you're talking about the shift from the outer to the inner. Well, this is what the card means. It means everybody, and I'm sure everybody who's listening to this show is on some level interested in metaphysics, parapsychology, whatever the fuck you want to call it, spirituality. It is the card that says during this time of March, you better set your alarm on your phone, get down and dirty with the process of meditating. Go within. Don't act, and sometimes there are times where it's important, Janet, for us to expand. This is the time that the card says to contract, get quiet, go within, don't be reactive. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And I love it. Your story validates mine. I love this.
Yeah,
so,
it's really cool. I get jazzed about this every time. When we started this dynamic between the two of us, I thought, oh, God, I wonder how this is going to work. And every single time, I am impressed and validated. So I just need to be a bad producer right now. Can I do that? You have about 15 you have about 15 people in the queue, and I have to apologize to all these people. If you don't get a reading, please get in touch with Janet at her website. But we have a bunch of people in the queue, so unless you have more to talk about, I would like to get to them.
I'm done with that. So let's get to Gina.
All right, hold on a second because I have to scroll down. I have so many people in the queue. Gina, I'm going to bring Gina on in. Hi,
hey, guys.
Hey, Gina, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. We're on a roll, apparently.
That's great. I love it.
How about you? Are you on a roll?
Every day. I'm living the dream.
I love it. I love it. So, Gina, tell me, what can I help you with this evening?
Well, I just I saw what you were doing the show on, the solstice, and I thought that my chart would be a really great example for people to stop feeling sorry for themselves and realize that life really isn't that bad. And I have so much going on in my chart that I like to teach, and I always use my chart to teach people. So I just figured you'd pull like an example from my chart, and someone might be able to connect with that.
Let's see, where do we start? So Gina, darling, Gina has a 12th house that I wouldn't want to have, even though I have it. I have the Sun and Mercury in my 12th house, as does Gina, as well as Mars in her 12th house and the part of fortune, which that I think makes things all kissy and nice. But she has Pluto transiting through her 12th house. So for you, I think you probably been...
I just want to make a shout out to Pluto. Pluto, you hit like a girl. Just want to put that out there.
You hit like a girl. Let's see if you say that after the transit's over. I think it's going to be a profound transformation in your life.
Great.
But you know, Gina,
that's great.
here's what I see. People with Pluto transits, if you're welcoming this transformation and you're not afraid to go through the process of death and rebirth, it works out a whole lot easier for you than if you are kicking and screaming and trying to hold on for dear life to all those things that may be trying to transform in your life. So it sounds to me like you're fairly open and you're probably engaged in this life in a way that makes this a whole lot easier for you. And if that's the case, what I would expect at the end of this transit for you is that a master has emerged, has come into the light. And in that case, then you should be on path. It almost feels to me, really, because I'm looking at your south node sitting at your ascendant, very close to the ascendant, as if this is something, a continuation from a previous lifetime. That this isn't something that you just gained in this lifetime, but there's like a fundamental shift going on that's propelling you as in an evolutionary leap, let's say, in this particular lifetime. So profound, and I think it's awesome that you've made Pluto your friend. And that continue doing that, because that's going to help you get through this 12th house. I think you're going to probably find yourself in receipt of a whole lot of mystic wisdom, if you will. And only because I see my supernatural radio girls out there and I'm waving to you, supernatural ability to get information and mediate that information and communicate it out to the people that you are influencing. So good for you in that one. Now, the other concern I would have is if you were not aware and awake, I would say Saturn is getting ready to move through that line of planets that you have from about 22 degrees Sagittarius, and it doesn't stop until you get to 11 degrees of Aquarius, which tells me, maybe 4 years worth of attention by Saturn, the taskmaster, right, the great teacher, wanting you to conform and or create form and or restructure some of these energies throughout your 11th and your 12th house. What I would do if I were you, you are now in the period of time with the sun in your 11th house. Let's see, at least through what looks like to be about mid-January. That is a time period where you can really gain a lot of manifesting ability, and you can gain a lot of the idea of what do I want to create and make it happen. So I would use that time while the sun's moving through here to align yourself with what's true and authentic for you, because Saturn will not take prisoners when he comes through here. He will demand that you align with your authentic self. He will demand that you claim your authority and that you use it out there in a humanitarian way or in a way that helps the world. So that's coming for you as well. And let's just, for fun and grins, see what Jupiter and Uranus are dredging up. They're across your 2nd and your 8th house. How are you doing financially?
Yeah, that's always, fun. I'm actually really excited because my solar return, they're in opposition on my 6th and 12th houses. I can't wait for that. But financially, I mean, there's always room for improvement, and I know that Saturn coming in I'm really going to be looking at how I manage my money, and as well as how I feel like I value myself in comparison to that. So I know that's an area that I need to work on, so I'm totally excited to do that.
Yay!
And I know when I come outside the other side of all of that, it'll be better, so I'm just ready to roll with it.
So let me just say real quickly, if your solar return is across the 12th and the 6th houses, that's awesome. Because in the grand scheme of things, what it's doing is keeping everything in perspective. It's allowing you to see what needs to be changed. It's allowing you to see where the world needs you or what skills you have that match with what people need. And then as long as you're able to align yourself with that, be doing what you need to be doing, and then the money is secondary. The money comes as a sort of gift from the universe, if you will, for having done the work that you needed to do for helping the world. So as long as your focus is you want to get money from sources when you least expect it. What's that? Oh, God, for, Jason?
Because you had cut out for a second.
Yeah, you cut out in a hardcore way. I don't know what you're hearing, Janet, and I'll bitch and moan after we get off the air. But you've gone in and out a couple times on me, and I thought, oh, shit, I'm going to have to host the show. So, yeah. Yeah,
Jason,
okay.
I think we've got this. We can handle this.
Good. Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you hear me now? Okay, good. All right, so did you miss any of what I said? Basically, you are being gifted by the universe when you do the work that you are here to do. I don't know that money is ever going to be a struggle for you because it appears that resources come to you from places that you least expect it. So
yeah, I'm pretty lucky that way. I can't complain.
Yeah. You got Jupiter and Saturn conjunct in your eighth house of other people's money. I think, and Pluto's there as well. So you don't have any worry. Write books. Write them all. Write all the books. At any rate, I know we're getting down in time here, and I hope that answers some of your questions. And I, would welcome a conversation with you another time online here to see how you do after your birthday.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for the
Welcome,
time.
Gina. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for waiting for us. And happy holidays.
Same to you both.
Thank you.
All right, Gina, I'm going to put you back in the queue. And Mistress Janet of the night, tell me, I think I have Antonella on the line. Is that the next lady you'd like to speak with?
That would be my next lady.
Wonderful.
Hello,
Hi, Antonella. You're live with Janet.
Hi.
Hi there. How are you doing this evening?
Wonderful. I've been taking notes and taking it in and learning a lot. So I can't wait to see how I'm lining up in this future.
Well,
I want to squeak really bad, but I won't squeak.
Squeak all you like. Tell me, what is uppermost in your mind? What is maybe a challenge that you're experiencing or something that you're just dying to know about your chart and where you're headed?
So that is exactly what I want to know is where I'm headed. I'm kind of involved in what I call the Path to Purpose Mystery School. And there's all these paths, and they're all mysterious. But I'm learning through each one that I'm in the center. And wherever those paths, and that's just the image that comes to mind. Almost like there's a lot of images, like flower petals. There's lots of flower petals on a flower, and then there's like the center. Well, like maybe the mystery is me, and there's all these paths that are possible.
That's so fascinating because that's coming out of the mouth of a Leo who is always in the center.
It is.
Right? So, who not only has the sun in Leo, but Jupiter as well as Venus as well as Mercury. So a very Leo-driven energy here, all at your, by the way, 10th house, which and up at the midheaven. So Leo's very dynamic for you and is very much in alignment with what you do in the world, your reputation and how you're seen by the outer world. So that's like I don't think I could have had a better metaphor for you in that you're the center of that flower or you're the center of the universe in all of this. Now, where things get interesting is that part of your 10th house is also in Virgo. And Virgo energy is about putting, all of that Leo, wonderful creative energy and the fire and the passion out to the world, like putting it to work.
Yes.
So you can't just stay in the center and be the calm of the storm without getting out and getting your feet wet and actually putting it out there and doing some work. So that has probably come under very tough scrutiny for you over the last year as the North Node or Destiny was transiting over your natal Saturn, and you've just recently had a Destiny return. So you're really kind of on a new 19-year growth cycle as it relates to your destiny or what you're here to do, your life purpose, and that type of thing. So your life purpose being in Virgo tells me that you're really here to teach people or talk to people about wholeness, about what it takes to become whole, to put all their parts together, if you will, to bring all those flower petals, if you will, into the center to make a coherent flower. And that means this. sometimes people get themselves all disconnected, right? We have hardships, we have challenges, we have breakups in our relationships, and we leave little pieces of ourselves lying around. And like the parts of us that we don't want to look at, the negative things that we don't want to really look at, we just kind of relegate them to the back of the bus. Well, in your case, you're actually calling the back of the bus characteristics out to the forefront for people and helping them to reconnect all their pieces and their parts. And that begins with you having to go through the same product or the same process of the product, right? So that's the background. Now, what's happening in the moment is Jupiter has just entered your 12th house and has just conjuncted the planet Pluto. So it's a little bit different than the girl that we were just talking to, Gina, but, she has Pluto transiting her 12th house. You actually have it in your 12th house by birth. So you're already part of the mystic world, and there's a lot of things lying deep within you that need to be exposed and brought up to the surface. And Jupiter, of course, is going to do that for you in a very revolutionary way, as in you may become inspired to share your work in some new and exciting or different way. By thinking outside of the box, you're actually going to benefit. Yeah. Are you saying that, Lisa, because did you pull a card for her?
I pulled 3 cards for her, and I'm sitting here just laughing my ass off.
Share. Oh, good. Share that with her because I give her some...
It doesn't get better than this, darling.
Oh my God, I have the giggles too. Hold on, let me just breathe. I have to breathe. Okay, go on.
So I want you to know that if Janet and I were with you, we would be giving you a big hug. Because the card in the immediate past for you shows that you have looked at yourself, you have stared down some really good shit, and you realize that you have made the same mistakes like an idiot over and over again. And you realize this is in your past now, which is the 5 of Swords. I mean, just biting your nose to spite your face. So, I mean, of course, I don't know anything, because I don't, have a chart. That's what Janet does. So the card that is actually in the present, and I hope that you actually Google it, the Cosmic Tribe Tarot, and if you look at the 7 of Wands, which is your present card, it is a card that has a lion's head. a lion's head on it, and there are flames around it, and the card is called Courage. I don't think I need to go on about that card because I'd like to not waste time because Janet has about 7 minutes left. The card ahead of you is exactly in synchronicity to what Janet just fucking told you. It is the Princess of Wands. She is this woman, and she is standing on a tiger's back, again in the cat family. The card is called the Tiger Tamer, and she is the Princess of Wands. She is standing on a tiger's back. There are flames all around her. She is not getting burned. She holds an olive branch above her head, and it is the card that says, "You are being protected. Please do something. Please do something new. Please think outside the box. Please don't worry about falling. This time in the future, for the first time, you can do whatever the fuck you want and not get bitten in the ass." It is a card that says you've got the tools. You can do this now. Don't be a wuss. Don't chicken out.
I want you to remember this. Antonella, I want you to really remember this because when you get to February 11th, remember that Leo eclipse that I was talking about happens on top of your sun. So this is important because life could throw you a curveball at that point in time. Don't give up on anything that you're doing. Don't give up on yourself. Stay true to you. It'll just maybe be, some other kind of coloring that's coming in to help you decide where to go next. So, good one. Thanks, Jason. That's awesome.
You're welcome. So, Antonella, thank you for calling in. We love you. I'm putting you back in the queue because Janet has about 5 more minutes. And, Janet, do you want to hit another one?
Yeah, let's hit Sherry, I think, from Canada.
Wonderful.
I can't sing
So let's go ahead. Did we lose Sherry? Hold on, let me see. Look at that. We did. We lost Sherry. Ha! So,
well,
that being...
So let's do, because we've only got 4 minutes anyway, so I can't really do a complete, good job of a reading with anybody for that. So let's just sort of go through and kind of recap the energies in case people have just tuned in, or later on they ask questions about what did she say, especially if I was going in and out voice-wise. So what we have as themes, it appears, as we go into this winter solstice, is all about the energy of becoming true to ourselves, right? We're actually coming together with looking at the challenges that are showing up in our lives, and keeping to a sort of revolutionary impulse and raising our awareness and our consciousness at the same time. Then we get into February, the month of fun, where as long as we have done all the work through some of that transformational energy of January, end of December, revolutionary energy, I'm looking for the word, there it is. Then what we get to is a period of time where we have some really key decisions that we're going to have to make, some big energies through the month of February that are catalyzing change for us. And we can look back to about the date of October 19th to get an idea of maybe some of the things that changed a week ahead, a week behind of that time date, to get a kind of an idea of what energies we may be dealing with as we get into February. Be willing and open to make the changes and to go with the flow of the energy, because those eclipses sometimes are game changers and can throw you little curveballs. And then we get into March, right? March, lovely March. Starting out with a bit of confusion, but guaranteeing us the ability to, if we evaluate our where we are in our feelings of self-worth, and if we align ourselves with what we value, whether that's people, things, beliefs, and philosophies, then we have the real ability to affect positive change, positive growth in our lives, and become a co-worker in the great plan. Right? That means that we collaborate, we cooperate, and we co-create with the divine in a new direction by healing our separation with others, in whatever way in which we feel that we are separate from others. Did I miss anything there, Jay?
Very interesting. No. It's just you're hitting the all of the big hot spots, and the last couple of weeks, the last 2 or 3 months rather, if anybody's been listening to your show, you have really been on your soapbox about not feeling divided because of this idiot presidency that we're going to be enduring for the next 4 years. And while you are far, yes, don't use divided words. I'm really trying hard to get down and dirty with you on this, because I realize we have to all come together. But it's funny because, what he's going to be instated or whatever it is, in December, then we're going to have to deal, with the new regime. Say again?
Mm-hmm. On December 19th.
Right? Then we're going to have to deal with the new regime. And then come, about a month into it, when the dust settles, we're going to have to come together and figure out how to all make this work. So, everything you're saying makes absolute sense to me.
Right.
We have about a minute left, and so I want to make sure that the listeners know that we are going to be here next week. We're not going to be playing a rerun, and of course I have no idea what next week's show is going to be, but I'm very much looking. I love doing my shows with you. You are, this is so much fun. I'm glad that everything syncs up. You are just incredible when you are able to just tune in the way you do. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. I love co-hosting with you. And much past that, what else?
Well, let's see. What's on Titillating Tarot next week? You said the Emperor, so we are looking forward to demystifying the Emperor, it sounds like.
Yep. The macho male energy. We did the feminine energy. So that's what's going to be up on deck for this coming Wednesday. And then what? Christmas is what day? Is like the next day or something? On Friday or something like that? No, Saturday.
Christmas is on Sunday. Christmas is Sunday.
Sunday, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So we're all good. So
thank
we
you, Janet.
have our show on the 21st and the 22nd, and then on the 28th and the 29th. So join us next week and the week after, and everybody have a stellar week.
Bye now.
Bye, Jason.
Thank you for joining me today on Living Astrology. Living Astrology is part of the Empower You Media Network. You can find out more by going to www.living-astrology.com or by going to www.empoweryoumedia.com. If you would like to find out when our shows are airing, you can follow us at Blog Talk Radio under Living Astrology. Please consider liking us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Living Astrology and also Empower You Media. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now. Have a stellar week.